you believe that there is a difference in escalation between anti-tank missiles and anti-aircraft missiles on the one hand and aircraft on the other hand. I understand you believe that. I understand that Director Haynes believes that, and she claims that the analysts believe that. I don't believe it. I don't believe it, and I don't believe there's intelligence to support it. I bet the Russian pilot that gets shot out of the air by an anti-aircraft missile as opposed to an aircraft doesn't believe it either.
Fierce backlash over the Pentagon's decision to block Poland from sending fighter jets to Ukraine. 42 Republican senators now signing a letter to the Biden administration urging it to give Ukrainians the support they need to battle Putin's bloodlust.
We've gone from incompetent by the Biden administration to this move is dishonorable. So what's happened here, all of a sudden it was okay for Poland to give the jets, but when we're in the delivery chain, it's an escalation. So here's why it's dishonorable. Putin's morale went up and the Ukrainian morale went down because we allowed Putin to take off the table.
Buck Sexton, former CIA analyst and co-host of the Buck Sexton and Clay Travis show in Focus now. Buck, great to have you on. I want your reaction to the Wall Street Journal. It's reporting that the West is looking at alternative military support after the U.S. shot down the MiG's proposal. The headline reads this: U.S. allies look at sending Soviet-designed air defense systems to Ukraine. The subline, with Polish jets off the table, Western countries consider other options to help Kyiv fight off Russian invasion. The White House claims that allowing the MiG's transfer would be escalatory. They say that it is different than providing other types of weapons to Ukraine. Different how?
Well, you get into a gray area here for sure, and I think that it has to be said that the reality is it an escalation in the eyes of Vladimir Putin, right? And we could argue all day the semantics of whether anti-aircraft missiles are all that different. It's lethal aid from sending MiGs. But if Vladimir Putin decides that that is a red line for him, this is obviously the concern. There could be an escalation from there. Look, I think the problem here is that it was rolled out in a way that wasn't coordinated and was made public in such a way that it could agitate. Again, it's about Putin's perception, not about whether international law or our own Congress and members therein debate this as an escalation or not. I think if they could find a way to do this such that there was at least some plausible deniability, there are more planes that happen to be being flown in Ukraine, it might be less likely to push Putin to something rash in response. But I would also point out it wouldn't be necessarily a game changer even if we got these MiGs. They're decades old. The Russian Air Force has about 1,500 combat fighter planes at its disposal. It's used very few of them so far. Ukraine has, let's call it roughly 100 at the start of the conflict. It's lost some since then. And so you'd have to see a long and sustained air effort. It's not even clear that the Ukrainians would be able to do that logistically. And then it might become, well, can we use your air bases to fly these strikes? I think that's part of the concern.
Mm-hmm. You know, Kyiv is begging U.S. officials for more military support. But the question is, why would a three-way fighter jet deal, okay, with the MiGs to bolster Ukraine's defenses against Russia be any different than adding Polish fighter jets to Ukraine's arsenal? I mean, why is the Biden administration putting their foot down on this? And do you think that this letter that is written by these senators, do you think it's going to make any difference?
I think that there is going to be a push to get better air combat capability into the Ukrainians' hands. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do it. Clearly, the Biden administration isn't sure yet because they just shot down this plan that was essentially fell into their laps. I would say that we have to see this as the countries involved, whether it's Poland or any NATO ally, Germany, the U.S. Nobody wants to be the one who does something that gets a response from Putin of triggering Article 5, bringing in the NATO alliance. And if he's going to launch missiles, let's say at a Polish airbase or a German airbase, clearly that would happen. But I think from the perspective of folks like Senator Tom Cotton, who obviously has a strong perspective on this issue, it's why don't we just do the things we have to do to help the Ukrainians to the maximum in the fight at this stage? Because this thing is going to be dragging on for weeks, if not months. It's unlikely Vladimir Putin's going to bend to the economic sanctions Joe Biden talked about this morning. I think it's almost impossible that that's going to happen. So do we want to help the Ukrainians? Do we want to get them MiG fighter planes to at least give them a fighting chance against the Russian Air Force? But remember, the Russians have a lot in reserve, too. So the likelihood of escalation here is a thing that's in everybody's minds. Can we get them planes in a way that doesn't look like we are escalating to Vladimir Putin? It's a dangerous game. It's a very challenging equation we face right now. I mean, I think we will get it to them. I'm just not sure exactly how quickly and how effective it will be.
The messaging on the ground is of concern. The New York Post is reporting that Russian soldiers are actually saying that they are at war with the U.S., okay? Not Ukraine. In fact, they got this information from a Ukrainian man who fled his war-torn town, 55-year-old. He says that Russian troops told him, quote, "We're not at war with Ukraine and Ukrainians, but at war with the USA inside Ukraine." I also should add that he actually said that the Russians said this to him after they shot him.
The war propaganda is going to come at us all in increasing heaps in the days ahead. I mean, the Russians, whatever is being said by them on the ground, is not reflective of the actual reality. We are not yet at war with Russia, thank God, and we need to avoid war with Russia. That said, you're going to see a lot of things that make it seem like that could be inevitable, and I think it's important that cooler heads on this side and on the NATO side prevail, because the momentum of these conflicts is getting more involved, and we've seen that over many years now, and need to make sure that we hold the line.
Buck Sexton, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.